I'm Jennifer Dodd, and I'm in Dr. Hudson's Speech 205 class, and this is my informative speech. Here's my audience. Have you ever wished you had a clone of yourself? Someone to do your homework, clean your room, or even go to school for you when you didn't want to? Imagine if you had a clone. What would you do? With much research accumulated from academic sources and different statistic websites, I am sure of my knowledge and of what cloning is and the basic history behind the concept. Human cloning is an idea that will become very common here in the near future. With all the movies about cloning people, we are starting to understand what cloning could mean to society as we know it. Like in the movie The Island, the rich and famous pay for clones of them to be created just in case they ever need any spare parts or are dying someday. Another movie example would be My Sister's Keeper, where the parents of a cancer-stricken child plan to have a modified baby that will have all the same genetic material as the sick child in order to help her and donate anything the sick child may need. The urge to live forever is pushing scientists closer and closer to finding a way to clone a person, while avoiding all the ethical issues around the concept. So to start off with, what is a clone? Clones are genetically identical organisms. This just means that every single piece of DNA is exactly the same between the original and the clone, which leads to them having the exact same features. Some people wonder if identical twins count as being clones of one another. According to the How Stuff Works website, having a clone, it may seem like having an identical twin, except identical twins are born at the same time, and cloning would have to be done once a baby is born, if not at a later stage in life. So in other words, a clone would be more like a child that is very similar to the parent rather than a twin. There are two types of cloning specifically: therapeutic and reproductive. Therapeutic cloning involves cloning cells from a human for use in medicine and transplants. It also is an active area of research, but isn't in any medical practice anywhere in the world as of today. Two common methods of therapeutic cloning are somatic cell nuclear transfer and, more recently, pluripotent stem cell induction. In an academic journal, scientist Christine Volhard said, "Rules must serve to prevent misuse, but they also should not unduly inhabit medical research that is guided by the ethical principle to help and cure existing human beings." To summarize her viewpoint is that cloning should be used only to advance our medical knowledge and to help cure those who are sick. It would be misuse to use the cloning technology to only better ourselves by having a personal clone to do whatever we wish them to do, kind of like reproductive cloning. Reproductive cloning would involve making an entire cloned human instead of just specific cells or tissues as seen in this photo. In reproductive cloning, they're trying to make a human. In therapeutic, they're using it for further knowledge in this science world. Advocates support development of therapeutic cloning in order to generate tissues and whole organs to treat patients who otherwise can't have transplants. Advocates for reproductive cloning believe that parents who cannot otherwise reproduce should have access to the technology. So although the possibility of cloning humans had been the subject of speculation for much of the 20th century, scientists and policymakers began to take the idea seriously in the 1960s. According to the official Dolly the Sheep website, in 1901 the experiments started with German scientist Hans Spemann, who divided a two-cell embryo into two parts successfully. Then in 2004, South Korean scientists cloned 30 human embryos and developed them over several days to a stage where special cells known as embryonic stem cells could be removed. So from 1901 to 2004, cloning has been on a path to discovery more and more with each experiment. Dolly the sheep was the first cloned mammal ever. She was cloned in 1996 and actually named after the singer Dolly Parton. This experiment was probably one of the most controversial experiments in the science of cloning. The procedure involved implanting a nucleus from one sheep into the egg cell of another, which cloned the sheep from the nucleus. During the experiment, there were 277 attempts, with only one being successful. The success was Dolly. There was a high rate of stillborn and abnormal sheep. This news caused anger amongst many animal rights campaigners. In an academic journal survey by Lydia Sade, people were asked whether cloning animals was acceptable or wrong. The response was 32% said it was acceptable, whereas 62% said it was wrong to clone animals. When they were asked whether or not it was acceptable to clone humans, 12% said it was acceptable and 82% said it was wrong. What's your opinion? Is it acceptable to clone animals? What about humans? Some people feel it is unnecessary for scientists to use innocent animals in these experiments, as it is cruel and unjust. Should we be putting innocent animals through the amount of pain for our benefit? What if it benefited them as well? In the study of bioethics, the ethics of cloning refers to a variety of ethical positions regarding the practice and possibilities of cloning, especially human cloning. Many of these views are religious in origin. Human therapeutic and reproductive cloning is not commercially used. Animals are currently cloned in laboratories and in livestock production. Some opponents of reproductive cloning have concerns that technology is not yet developed enough to be safe. For example, the American Association for the Advancement of Science position on the subject is, while others emphasize that reproductive cloning could be abused, leading to the generation of humans from whom organs and tissues would be harvested, and have concerns about how cloned individuals could integrate with families and with society at large. In conclusion, cloning is a process in which an identical copy is created from an original organism. Cloning can be between plants, animals, and now even humans. The mechanics of cloning includes many processes such as the reproductive process and therapeutic process. Many reasons are associated with cloning, like donor babies for sick children and spare parts for celebrities for if they need them someday. If I personally had a clone, I would never do my homework ever again and only do what I wanted to do as a teenager. Finally, to conclude, I have some questions for you. If cloning were possible for the average citizen, would you clone yourself? What would you do if you had a clone, and would you want to live forever? I guess we will see what this concept has in store for us in the future. Thank you.